A single dad waiter saved a young woman in the rain. Days later, his daughter recognized her on TV. The rain didn't just fall that night, it chased, cornered, and soaked everything it touched. And if you keep listening, you'll understand why one ordinary moment under a flickering streetlight changed 3 lives forever, why a tired waiter's kindness echoed across television screens days later, and why a little girl's innocent voice would stop a room cold in a way no storm ever could. The rain had started as a whisper and turned into a roar by the time Daniel pushed open the back door of the diner, the smell of grease and coffee clinging to his clothes. He was 36, shoulders slightly hunched from years of carrying trays and heavier worries, his dark hair plastered to his forehead as he pulled his jacket tighter. The neon sign buzzed behind him, blinking open even though his shift was over. His feet ached, his tips were thin that night, and all he could think about was getting home to Lily, his 8-year-old daughter who always waited up, pretending to read while secretly listening for his keys. He stepped into the rain, already rehearsing the apology he'd give her for being late again. Halfway down the block, he saw her. She stood near the bus stop, soaked through, one heel broken, hair clinging to her face, arms wrapped around herself as if she could hold the world together by sheer will. She looked young, early 20s maybe, her mascara streaked, her eyes wide with panic she couldn't hide. Cars splashed past without slowing. Daniel hesitated. He had exactly $42 in his wallet, barely enough for groceries until payday. He had a daughter waiting. He told himself someone else would stop. Then the woman slipped. She didn't fall hard, but the sound she made, half gasp, half sob, cut through the rain like a blade. Daniel was already moving before he finished thinking. He crossed the street, rain soaking him to the bone, and held out his hand. She looked up at him like a cornered animal, fear flashing before exhaustion won. Her hand trembled in his. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice gentle, the way he spoke to Lily when she woke from nightmares. She nodded, then shook her head, then finally whispered, "I don't know." He gave her his jacket without a second thought. She protested weakly, but he wrapped it around her shoulders anyway, noticing how thin she was, how cold. Her name was Emily. She'd missed her last bus. Her phone was dead. She had nowhere to go. The words came out in pieces, between shivers. Daniel didn't have much, but he had a warm apartment, a couch, and a daughter who believed the world was kinder than it often was. He offered to call her a cab, but when she flinched at the price he already knew what he'd do. He walked her to his car, an old sedan with a dented door and a heater that complained before working. The drive was quiet, rain drumming on the roof, Emily staring out the window like she was afraid to blink. When they reached his building, Daniel hesitated again. He thought of how it would look, what people might think. Then he thought of Lily's face if he turned someone away in the rain. He led Emily upstairs, offered her dry clothes that belonged to his sister years ago, made her tea, and let her sleep on the couch. Lily, awakened by the noise, padded out in her socks, took one look at Emily, and wrapped her in a hug without asking a single question. Emily cried then, really cried, shoulders shaking, tears falling into Lily's hair. Daniel stood there, heart tight, realizing some people don't need reasons to be kind, they just are. In the morning, Emily left quietly. She thanked him over and over, voice breaking, promising she'd never forget what he'd done. Daniel smiled, said he was just glad she was safe. By the next day, life swallowed the moment whole. Bills came. Shifts piled up. Lily needed help with homework. The rain dried. The world moved on. Or so he thought. 3 days later, the second hook came without warning, wrapped in the glow of a television screen and the sound of Lily's excited gasp. It was Daniel's only night off that week. Dinner was simple, eggs and toast, and the TV murmured in the background while Lily colored on the floor. A news segment cut in, dramatic music swelling. Daniel barely looked up until he heard a familiar voice, stronger now, steadier, but unmistakable. The camera showed a young woman standing under bright studio lights, her hair styled, her face composed. A banner read, "Rising Tech Entrepreneur Shares Emotional Survival Story." Lily froze mid-color. She squinted at the screen, then stood up slowly. "That's her," she said. Daniel frowned. "Who, sweetheart?" "The rain lady," Lily whispered, eyes wide. "The one who slept on our couch." Daniel looked up. His heart dropped. Emily spoke into the microphone, her voice trembling as she described the worst night of her life, how she'd fled an abusive situation, how she'd been scared and alone in the rain, how she thought she might disappear without anyone noticing. Then she smiled, tears filling her eyes, and said, "But a stranger stopped. A single dad who works as a waiter. He saved me. He didn't know who I was. He didn't ask for anything. He just helped. Daniel sat very still. Lily turned to him, her face glowing with pride. That's you, Daddy. The reporter asked if Emily ever found him again. Emily shook her head. I don't know his name. But if he's watching, I want him to know. I'm here because of you. The room felt too small. Daniel swallowed hard, something warm and painful blooming in his chest. He hadn't saved a life, he told himself. He'd just done what anyone should. But Lily climbed into his lap, hugged him tight, and in that moment, the world felt different, softer, brighter, full of quiet miracles. The story didn't end there. Messages flooded the station. Someone recognized the diner. Someone recognized Daniel. By the end of the week, Emily stood at his workplace, nervous smile in place, gratitude shining in her eyes. She knelt to Lily's level and said thank you again, this time without cameras, without rain. Emily went on to rebuild her life, openly crediting the stranger who showed her kindness when she needed it most. Daniel kept waiting tables, still tired, still worried sometimes, but now carrying a deeper truth with him. Lily grew up knowing her father wasn't rich or famous, but he was good, and maybe that's the real reason this story holds you now, asking you to stay until the end, because sometimes the smallest choices, made by ordinary people on rainy nights, become the moments that remind us who we are, and who we can be, when someone needs us most.